To get some basic descriptive statistics out, you've got quite a few options. It depends a little bit on exactly what it is that you want to do and what type of variables that you're looking at. If you go to the Analyze menu and Descriptive Stats, the ones that you're going to be most interested in are these first four here: frequencies, descriptives, explore and crosstabs, and they all do slightly different things. If you just want things counted up, frequencies is the simplest command. You can see that I've already put survived in there. So I could just put in survived, and perhaps I might want the passenger class as well. You've got options that you can have a look at. If I just press OK, you'll see that it just will count up the number who are in each of these categories. So frequency tables are useful for categorical variables when you just need things counted up and percentages made for you. You'll see that it's got a percent and a valid percent. And that's because it'll calculate the percent out of all of the rows for you, but then it'll also do the percentage out of just the valid rows, so that if you want it to ignore any blank rows or any missing data, just use the valid percent instead of the raw percent. And I don't think you'll need the cumulative percent at all for this. The next option is descriptives. So you can see that it's got a little symbol here with a mu and a sigma, so mean and standard deviation. So if you want things calculated like the mean height or age or wage, you might want this option here. So I've put in age. I guess I could put in fare as well and see what the average price was for a ticket. So we've got an average age of nearly 30 years and an average fare of just over 33. I'm going to go pounds, but I don't know what they were in pounds probably. Okay, so that's descriptives. Now, as you can see, these are fairly simple. What we might actually want are these things counted up over some other category or some other variable. If we go to descriptives and look at explore, then I'll just take those out. We could do a similar thing where we look at, say, age, but we might want to split up the age, say, across the gender. And this time it'll do it twice. It'll do it first for female and then for male, and it actually gives you quite a few more options this time if you're after any of those stats. I never recommend that you cut and paste tables out of SPSS. There's just far too much information in this. You should really create your own tables for a report in just in Word or Excel, just taking out the bits of information that you need, perhaps the mean and the median and maybe the range or standard deviation. So this is a continuous variable split over two categories. It's possible that we want just a categorical variable tallied up over a couple of categories. So for our bar chart that we looked at in a different video, we were looking at the proportion of people who survived out of each port. To do that, we would want a cross tabulation. So if I go back to Descriptive Stats and crosstabs, which is the fourth option, I'll just take those out and pop them back in again for you. You need to choose if you want rows or columns, but it doesn't really matter too much. I'm going to put the port of embarkation as the rows and the survival as the columns. If I just press OK like that, you can see it's counted up the proportion who survived and died from each port. I might want the percentages in that, so in which case I can go back to my options for crosstabs and this button here with the cells. So I need to decide if I want the percentages calculated across the row or down the columns, and this will depend on how you've set up your rows and the columns to start with. In this case, I've got a row for each port, and if I want to know the percentage who survived and died out of each port, I'm going to want the percentages going across these rows. So I'll tick off row and go continue. Of course, you can just tick all three of those options if you want to, but your table might end up looking just a little bit messy. And it's also worth noting here that it will do the clustered bar chart straight from this dialog if you want it to, but there's no option to change these afterwards. Looks like we've got some missing data here, creating a fourth category, which we don't need. But in the table, we now get our numbers and our percentages.